Hi, this is Jim Thomas, your Ministry Associate at the Christian Church of Northern California, Nevada. In this video, we're going to talk about hybrid services. We're not going to get too deep in the weeds. We'll just give you the basic understanding of how a hybrid service works, the general concepts behind it, and give you a plan on how you can build your own hybrid service if you haven't done so already. To get started, let's talk about how we got here. Back in 2020, the shelter in place kind of forced the churches to find alternative ways of providing worship service for their congregation. Most went online to do this. Now, there's various ways of doing service online, which we will cover. For those who use video conferencing apps, we learned very quickly that there was a group of people out there that were coming to church online, but weren't coming to church in person. And we identified some of the reasons why that was the case. There were geographical constraints. Maybe people who came to the church moved too far away to continue coming into worship, but still wanted to be part of the church. There could have been families or friends who were invited to the church, again, not living nearby, and now with the online component, they're able to do that. Inquirers, people who are interested in checking out our church, but didn't want to put themselves in that awkward situation by being there in person. So this gives them an opportunity to kind of check us out without having to worry about that. Then there's health concerns. Maybe you are mobily disabled, or you've got some anxieties, or maybe you're just feeling ill and you don't want to pass whatever it is that you have on to the other congregants. So going online is a good way to go. Now that we are transitioning back into in-person, we don't want to leave the folks behind who would prefer to continue on with worshiping online with us. So we wanted to create some sort of environment where we could have in-person worship service and then include the people that were online. And this is the basis for a hybrid service. Before we get into hybrid service, let's talk about the different models of online service. There's the on-demand. That's basic. That's one that churches have been doing for years. And basically, you get yourself a video recorder and a tripod, you put it out there in front of the chancel, you record the sermon and the lectures and maybe testimony or what have you, and then you compile that video and you put it up on a streaming service such as YouTube or Facebook or a myriad of other available services. The next one up would be the streaming. Now with streaming, you want to connect your camera to your computer, and then you would use Facebook Live or YouTube Live, any streaming software, to actually do real-time streaming of your service. And so people can be at home and be on Facebook or YouTube and enjoy the service. Of course, there's not a lot of interaction to that, but at least it gets the service out there. What a lot of churches have done is they went with the video conferencing type of app, and they created a virtual model for worship service. And people would use Zoom, for instance, and that's what I'm going to focus on in all these videos. They would use Zoom to connect, to join the meeting, and to participate. And the wonderful thing about that is that if somebody was a liturgist or somebody was giving testimony, doesn't matter who it was, they would get an opportunity to do that. People then communicate to each other, especially in the chat rooms, and it was a wonderful solution. So the hybrid is the natural evolution of that, where we take the virtual service and the in-person service and put them together. Now, in order to do that, there's a certain amount of complexity that you have to get beyond. Let's talk about the challenges that you have to deal with in attempting to do this. The first and biggest challenge would be your talent pool. Do you have people in your congregation that know the technology, that understand audio, video, that understand computers and virtual conferencing, etc.? If you don't, that moves us into the second part that you need to deal with. And that is, do you have the budget for this? Do you have the money? Do you need to run a fundraiser? These are things that will delay the process. So that's something to deal with. And finally, What is the infrastructure? Do you own the building that you do your worship services in? Is it a home church that you're in? Wherever you put this equipment, can you put the equipment up and install it in such a way that the equipment and the cables and the wirings will not be a safety hazard for your church? And how do you keep it safe? So those are the three main things that are going to stand in your way of achieving a hybrid service. But it's not impossible. You can make it through it. The easiest way to start is start from the basics. Now, some of you have already started streaming, and some of you have already started the virtual service. What I'm going to show you now is how we go from taking it from the on-demand model and adding equipment until we get to the hybrid service. So this is your basic on-demand. As you can see, it's just one camera and a tripod, and you just record what you want to share on YouTube or Facebook. And if you wanted to do some post-production work, that is to say you want to add titles to it, or you want to clip out some of the awkward parts or what have you, the software could be expensive. But if you have a Mac, there's Apple iMovie, which works really, really well, and it's free. There's also, for the PC, the Microsoft Clipchamp, also free, and it works fairly good. I wouldn't worry about going any further than that, because the more robust type of video editors can have a high learning curve. So until you're ready to take on that high learning curve, let's just stick with the basics here. So we want to step up our game. We want to go from on-demand and go on to streaming. That's all about connecting your camera to your computer. And the easiest way to do that is with a video capture card. And you just go to Amazon or Best Buy or wherever you want to do your electronic shopping and type in video capture card, and you'll find a number of different ones from which you can choose, and they all work fairly decent. You also need to add some software into the mix. OBS Studio is a video screen manager. It allows you to create scenes and sources to be displayed through your computer. It's really kind of fun to play around with, and it's free. Facebook Live and YouTube Live are free. Of course, you have to have an account, so just create an account and set it up so that you can do your live streaming whenever you want to do the live streaming. Now, there's a little bit of a learning curve there, but stick around to the end, and I'll have some resources for you to follow. Moving on from the streaming model to the virtual model, we want to add a couple of things in there. So the next thing you want to do is make sure that your computer is hooked up to a large screen. Now, chances are you may already have a large screen because you're probably using some sort of PowerPoint or some other presentation software as part of your sermon or lecture, and it's there. So this may already be there for you, but I put this in here because I wanted to make sure that it's there. However, this is going to do a double duty, and that is it's going to show the Zoom gallery mode when you're not using it for the PowerPoint. And the reason why we want to do that is that creates sort of an awareness amongst the people in the sanctuary that there are people connected via Zoom and they're worshiping with you at the same time. Added on to that, if you don't already have this set up, is you want to have your high quality mics connected to your computer. And the way that is being done is through an audio interface or a mixer. Now, we're not going to use the mixer in this example, just the audio interface, because all we want to do ultimately is get the audio from the microphones to the computer. And that's what this will do. Once we do that, then we just need to get the audio out to your loudspeaker. And that's done this way. Relatively easy. More software that we have to add to this would be Zoom or whatever virtual conferencing software that you want to use. And the Stream Deck, we talked about that. There's some software that goes along with it. And basically what the Stream Deck does is it gives you a bunch of control buttons so you can switch scenes relatively easily without having to sort of tab switch between apps on your computer. Once you get to this point, you have a basic hybrid configuration. The journey doesn't end there. You need to continue to improve on what you have, and the way you do that is when you sit down there and produce one of your services, then you reflect back and evaluate what could have been better, what could you have done to improve, and then introduce those improvements. Now, you might not have an improvement every week, but by staying vigilant on this, you will continue to improve what you have. Now, what I have at my church in Fremont, Niles Discovery Church, is a bit more complicated, but it works very, very well. And let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, I have a secondary screen now. We've got two screens up in our sanctuary, one for the presentation, the other one for the Zoom. And this way, when there is a Zoom speaker, like a liturgist or somebody giving testimony, they will show up in full view on the Zoom screen. Otherwise, that Zoom screen will show the Zoom gallery. You'll also notice that I have a sanctuary cam. And the sanctuary cam is used to pan through the sanctuary so that the people on Zoom can see the people who are in the sanctuary, giving that awareness that we are all worshiping together. There's also a mixer in there. This is a different model than with the audio interface, because what I'm doing here is I'm controlling all audio sources at the mixer level and then using the mixer to send the audio out to the loudspeaker. How far you take this is strictly up to you. We have found that the hybrid service has served our congregation quite well, so much so that we are setting up resources for people who and churches who are interested in setting up their own. We have a Discord channel dedicated for hybrid service. I check that frequently. We have other people that are joining, and if you have a hybrid service or if you're doing other types of online services, then by all means join and answer any questions that come up and share any resources that you might have. If you're just getting started, come to the Discord channel. I'll have the channel link in the description below, and ask your questions, and we're happy to answer them. The region also offers a technology grant. So if you're strapped for cash and you need to get that piece of equipment or other things necessary to build up your online service, contact me. Contact the regional office. Let us know. Get you started on filling out a grant request, and we'll move on from there. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.